covering all your favorite parts of the 50-yard fight. This is the Inside the Walls podcast with Zach Kyleman and Jim Mernier.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to the 50-yard fight here on Inside the Walls podcast. And welcome to Wednesday Rewind. I am Jim Mernier, alongside me, 900 miles away, Zach Kyleman.
Yes, as always, far off in the distant lands of the crossroads of America, I rest in arena desert, if you will. But that's okay. Thank God for technology. I get to watch National Arena League right from the comforts of the heartland.
If it works for you.
I mean, it does. Trust me, I still am going to go to that game.
Well, week 5 is in the books in the National Arena League. We had 2 games this past weekend, if you call them games, but we have to cover them here on the Inside the Walls podcast, the official podcast of the National Arena League. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, especially our new subscribers or people who are just running into this video for the first time, please subscribe. Like one of our fellow podcasters would say, it builds morale. Please follow us on social medias at InWallsPod, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Am I missing something else? Facebook. Yes. Facebook. Yeah. I covered it all.
Yeah. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, baby.
Or follow us at nationalarenaleague.com. We're on the front page of the website, or go to nationalarenaleague.com/videos to catch up on all Inside the Walls content here. Here. See, I don't do good at this stuff, man. I'm just saying. People who watch the show know that Jim is going to stutter or get caught in the conversation and have no idea where it goes. Maybe that's why you guys love me so much, or hate me. I don't care.
God, the Jim, he's
I'm fiery. It's what happens when I watch a game on Saturday. Sunday. And I'm turning off the YouTube channel halfway through because you know what? A little angry. Turn off, have a couple drinks, relax, rewatch a game when I'm calm. My fan got into me. But overall, the weekend was unique. Situations happened, especially in arena game. Travel situations occurred. San Antonio took a 20-hour bus trip to Carolina from San Antonio.
Ooh. And
Jacksonville got caught in Atlanta International Airport with severe weather delays in the area where Atlanta International or Hartsfield International had to cancel a lot of flights out of Atlanta during the time. So that situation delayed the game in Albany. So if you watch the National Arena League, if you watch the indoor game, no matter what era it is, when weather hits, stuff happens. It's not the NFL where they can charter multi-million-dollar aircraft and fly direct. They do not. They have to do it the old-fashioned way, like what me and you will do, Zach. We got to go here, got to buy our ticket, got to go, like just normal people.
Oh, yeah.
So besides from that, National Arena League had a good turnout, I think, for both games, in my opinion. It's just, I want to approach breaking down these 2 games differently because from 1-2 fan bases, these weren't really games. They were shellackings, they were domination, and one team just basically keeps perfection to the key. It's how let's do it. Let's talk about the 2 games differently. The 2 teams that lost, sure. Jacksonville and San Antonio. The Jacksonville Sharks, of course, lost to the Albany Empire. Was honestly not a good game for Jacksonville. Got behind the 8 ball right off the gate. San Antonio, the same way. They kind of stayed in it, tried to, but turnovers, penalties, you gave both offenses, Albany and Carolina, the ball. And what Jonathan Bain proved this weekend in Carolina, what Sam Castronova or Darius Prince proved in Albany, you do not give these guys extra possessions. That's why I see the narrative of this weekend between these 2 games is pure domination for 2 teams. The 2 road teams, no matter how they got to the game, excuses aside with travel, did not play well. Both teams did not play well. Quarterback play was not well on both teams. And the home teams dominated. And when you have quarterbacks that throw for 300 some odd yards and only miss 4 passes and 8 touchdowns, you're not going to beat that team. I don't care who you are. The arena game is unique but it's also very painful when you give the opponent team extra possessions.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, looking at Jacksonville, just their contest. I mean, they had factors going on even before they got to there. Like we're talking with the weather, they had a weather delay issue trying to get their players into Albany. That pushed the game back a day, and they basically had to fly in and be ready to go same day, which that's not pleasant. Having to fly, from north to south. Probably, if I had to guesstimate, about I mean, geez, they had to fly, I believe it was Atlanta to Newark, and then like Newark they had to then get to Albany.
I think it was direct from Atlanta to Newark, or Atlanta to Albany.
One or the other.
Yeah.
I mean, you still
it's
have
still
to
a 3-hour flight.
It's 3 hour plus flight. Yeah, like it's still unfortunate for that sense. But they still, even if you want to argue they came in flat just off the flight, I mean, I don't think that's a good enough excuse, really. To me, it was really a rough showing for Malik Henry. And Damian May was kind of thrusted in their third quarter and was like, all right, this Coach Burley I'm referencing, if anyone's catching on. All right, Damian, have at it. Go right in, I mean, Malik looked like he was uncomfortable most of the afternoon, making mistakes that we weren't seeing since really week 1 and 2. A lot more of just kind of chucking it up, seeing who else is going to come up there. I mean, Kenneth Magruder came down with 2 interceptions just off of like poorly placed deep passes. Which, hi, Kenneth Magruder, welcome back to your spot on your roster, because his all NAL side showed up as we were talking about last week. Like, he came to play. He had big hits all over the place, 2 interceptions. He was flying around the field as the specialist there for the Empire, showed out. And some of the faces that the Empire had, they've changed up a little bit. They have more talent there, but like some guys, I was like, okay, dang. I didn't see Gorman making an impact before. Now he just kind of got signed on really recently. Wade, that was another one. So like Jacksonville had a lot to deal with them. I mean, if I remember this right, if I am recollected, Wilson, his touchdown streak got broken.
Yes, it did.
That one's gone. That was the saddest part of the night to me. I mean, the loss, of course, in the way it was, credit. It still was unfortunate. It's unfortunate to see a team get blown out of the water like that if you're on the road or at home. But just to have
streak's going to stand for a while, though.
Oh, it probably will. I mean, what was it? It was 33,
31.
And I was over gauging. And nonetheless, I mean,
the closest player is about 2 seasons away if they play count touchdowns for 2 seasons.
Right. I mean, that was unfortunate, but I mean, it shows the strength that, I mean, the Empire defense was blanketing all over. Jacksonville, I mean, it just felt like they were overmatched. Flight or not, some factors like that, frustration with just how things were going. And it's funny, they were only down 2 scores going into halftime. So it wasn't fully out of reach. It kind of funny, both this game and the one in Greensboro kind of went a similar deal. They're 2 possession games going to half. Sure, one feels like they're better than the other, but like, you're like, well, maybe if they come out swinging after halftime, get a quick score, or they're able to get a stop, that these things could stay reasonably in the vein of competitiveness. But no, like what happened was both the better teams came out, smacked the other in the mouth, and they just sprinted away with this thing like it was no other. I mean, San Antonio, I mean, dude, we can talk about travel all you want as well. I mean, it's funny. I bet if you had a Gunslingers player and a Jacksonville player sit down and debate who had the worst travel this weekend, I think neither one would barge on their side. Be like, yeah, I sat in a bus for 20 hours. You think I'm gonna? Well, we were at an airport for overnight. It's like oh, you got an airport. Oh, lucky you.
You were at one location. We were on the road.
Right.
I
mean, but I mean, honestly, both games though, it's just kind of similar vibe. Road trip woes, maybe tiredness from there. Credit, the Gunslingers did at least get a day to settle in, sleep, and then pre-work out before the game. So slightly different, but like 20 hours is 20 hours. And I can't say. And really, both offenses, either one of these teams that played this weekend, they played against the top 2 teams in the league, and both offenses struggled, turnover issues, couldn't keep possessions on their side, and just blew defensive coverages at the worst possible time, or at least in Jacksonville's case, Castronova just would bust up the middle. Very, very mobile threat. but he's learned how to maneuver the pocket and find those openings,
Again, like we mentioned before in past shows, Castronova has completely 180 his playing style from last season. And his feet and his mobility is a weapon for the Albany Empire.
You know what showed to me that he's taken a step? So last year when I was watching with Carolina, he played so much hero ball, which when I say hero ball, I'm talking you're in the backfield. You're trying to keep that play alive as long as possible, and you're going to try your best to just chuck it up and think that there's a prayer out there. Mm-hmm. There were a lot of times in the third and fourth quarter, Sam would just throw it into the audience. There was a drive, he threw it into the audience 3 times before he threw a touchdown. And I stopped there and went, that version of Castronova last year would have not done that. That would have been a pick. No. The fact that he was that patient, he rolled out of the pocket, said, crap, there's nothing there, and threw it away. I'm like, that's progression. That's a guy that's learned from his first year in arena.
Yeah,
so
that's
progress in motion.
I think that's where you see growing pains in Jacksonville with Malik Henry. Yes, he played in another league, but this is a completely different game and style. And it looks like he might go through the same woes like Castronova did in the first couple of weeks last season before he got Albany. And look where he's in Albany. Will Shark fans have to wait till next season to see a better offense? That the Jacksonville Sharks organization is not like that.
Right.
They're going to not demand perfection or excellence, but they want a competitive team on the field. I think this is the biggest blowout they have suffered in the NAL, and I've talked to a lot of Shark fans on Twitter and Facebook about this, and through text messages. It was Albany bruised the egos of Jacksonville, and Albany thinks, from what I've talked to some individuals, that we're rivals with Jacksonville. We're not rivals with. We don't consider you a rival. We just don't. I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. You can say, oh, we got titles galore. We just don't. We do too. We're just 2 bad years. Like, all right, think that you've as a fan, I was like, think that you got this. Just don't be that 2 seed or that 1 seed being cocky, get into the playoffs, and Jackson find ways to get hot, and they go up there and ruin your season in the playoffs. That's still a possibility. Will Jacksonville make the playoffs? To my Jacksonville fans out there, we're only a half a game behind Orlando right now in standings for the 4th seed, with 3 games against them.
It's a toss-up for them. I think you got a lot more questions going into this week as well, because Malik Henry he's pulled mid-3rd quarter, or there was an injury. I couldn't really tell which. The broadcast implied injury, but he wasn't out there with the team. It's a lot of kind of up in the air with that, and that's going to be something, a storyline you watch.
But if you rewatch that play that he got injured at, it looked like he injured his non-thrown hand. And if you're a quarterback and you injure your non-thrown hand or non-thrown arm, the probability of you playing the next week is very high than not. But I don't know what the trainers are doing in Jacksonville. I don't know what the team doctor said. I just know based on watching that how he went down, it looks like non-thrown situation. And for Jacksonville fans, how you see Damian May played last week, it's just like, yeah, you might have to go with Malik Henry, and just hopefully he's better, because you're playing Carolina this weekend. Last time you played Carolina, you played pretty tough. Even though you lost them, you played pretty tough. It's just for Jacksonville, no matter what the excuses was, and I can be my fan side of things here. You've talked about this off air and on our chat and our text messages. There are a couple of plays during that game, throughout the game, that were very questionable. There were very, and I guarantee a lot of Shark fans are like, yeah, you're talking about all the phantom flags. I'm like, not all the phantom flags. I just look, there's one position there. I was like, 3 offside penalties. I watched every single plays that those offside penalties happened. No one was offsides. Continued drives for Albany. And I did talk to some people from Jacksonville and from other teams. I did get a question about this via one of our messages about, is fan interference reviewable? The answer to that question is yes, it is reviewable. Because it was reviewed in Orlando, a couple weeks ago. It was reviewed in Albany week 1. It was reviewed in Columbus in week 1. All of a sudden, it's not reviewable in Albany for this game against the Sharks. There's for some, I'm not blaming the referees there, but there has to be a rule. We have to. That's one thing I get nagged about these rules shouldn't equal every single game. Now I could be wrong. Now my sources say no, that play's unreviewable. But when we're reviewing fan interference in week 1 against Darius Prince, by the way, and you review that, but when it happens to Devin Wilson in week 5, it's not reviewable. There's certain things in this game that we can banter and bash about. It's just that I don't mind the phantom flags that were thrown. It's home field advantage. It's what you get when you're home. It's like in the NBA playoffs. The home team gets more fouls than the road team. You just got to find a way to overcome and execute better. You're going to get that in the arena game. But as we complained about, the reviews all the time in this game, how it delays, the moment of this game did not slow down at all. The timing was okay. That was just my fan talking about the pass interference, the fan interference that should have been reviewed that wasn't reviewed. Burley was really upset, and he has a point. I just told you the 4 games to go look at, ladies and gentlemen. Fan interference was reviewed.
I mean, so, that's been a reviewable one,
And via the text messages I had with a couple people, that should have been reviewed, and it wasn't. And Burley was going to throw the flag or the challenge flag, and the referee said that's not a review play, and they said it on the coverage. So, yes, it is a reviewable play. That's literally why we have that rule. It's just that was so aggravating. I'm like, okay, let me just go spend time with some family, chill, and come watch the game later after the result, which I did, and start watching it. Then I disregard the penalties, disregard all that stuff. And then I just kept watching the game and realized Albany's game plan, the offensive line, how they use their Iron Man scheme against the Sharks. They made adjustments from this game compared to the first game they played each other, and they just dominated Jackson.
Right. I mean, overall, that's what happened.
This is what I'm going to say. I know I have Albany fans messaging me, especially one of our loyal supporters that constantly messages us. If that situation did change, if the flags, take the flags away, take the review away, Albany would have still won this game. They were dominant from the point of the game, start of the game, period. Dwayne Hollis's interceptions were clean.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened to those 2 interceptions by Dwayne Hollis? 21 points off of turnovers. What happened to Darius Prince's interception? Touchdown. What about their kicker? Hitting deuces. They kicked Jacksonville's behind. Yes, you can complain about one possession about fan calls and a missed non-reviewable play. Those situations had 0 factor into the outcome of that game.
Yes.
And once I calm down, once I watch it as a person that covers this league, I look on the field and go, yeah, they were just outmatched, outplayed, out-hit, and Albany was just faster than the ball. And from fan perspective, yeah, I can complain, this, and this, and this, but it didn't happen. And as a person who covers the league, Albany won this game. Clear, they were the better team again, and they made adjustments that Jacksonville didn't do for the first meeting, and Jacksonville paid for it.
Yeah, I mean, they did. And I think one of the things that I thought that, at least Jacksonville, I wish they could have done better. It seemed like they weren't ready for some of the new weapons that Albany had, or like it felt like that some of the guys that weren't there the previous first matchup just ripped them apart. Like, sure, Darius Prince will be Darius Prince. Like, you're basically no, like the idea with Darius Prince is he's going to burn you at some point. The question is you have to limit how much he burns you. But then you have guys like Wade who go off on a tear and not only are, offensively ripping you apart and getting TDs, but defensively they're coming in and smacking him out. This dude is a skinny guy, but but in the secondary, all over the place. And that's just, look, frame doesn't matter, obviously, as long as you're playing well. I'm just saying, like, for his frame and his build and, him coming off and this is his first week of action, he tore Jacksonville apart. Like,
of course.
Kennyville obviously did the best he could against Darius Prince, still got 1 or 2 of them he got behind him. That's just how it's going to happen. but everyone else you still have to pick up the slack elsewhere that secondary,
But also you look at Jacksonville, there's some good, you can look at especially this game, there are a few things that you look at go, this player is actually playing damn well, and he's not getting any recognition. Who's becoming a very good jack linebacker for Jacksonville? Devin Wilson.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the only one I'm saying. I'm like, don't think of this as a trick question, Zach.
No, it's not.
It's right in front of you. Yeah, no.
I threw you a freaking fastball.
No,
it's the size of a watermelon.
Devin's been getting around the field pretty well at the jack there. Yeah.
There's some positive things that Jacksonville could build from this, but also it's one game. Yes, you're 1-4. That record doesn't look a lot of Jacksonville fans. We know a couple of Jacksonville fans on one of our chat rooms that he's Mr. Doom and Gloom. Oh, they dropped the punt. Oh, it's the end of the world type of scenario. We're talking about you, Skyler, but it's Jacksonville for Jacksonville fans. You have 3 teams in the bottom tier right now: San Antonio and Orlando. You have them coming up on your schedule in the month of June. Those will be not just games you need to win. Those are crucial games you have to win. You have to win that season series against Orlando. You have to find a way to sweep or at least win 1-2 against San Antonio to make sure that you're possibly can get that 4 seed. And you got Columbus coming in or going to Columbus in the mixture of that. They're in right now in a little disarray. They're trying to figure things out too. So we thought last year, we're like, okay, Columbus and Albany clear the better teams of the league. Will the second half of the season be the separation of Carolina and Carolina Albany this year? And will the 4 teams at the bottom, Columbus, San Antonio, Orlando, Jacksonville, be the ones scrapping to get the third and the 4th seed? If you would have told me that week 1, I would have told you, no, that's too long of a season. We're going to week 6. This is separation Saturday coming up. Jacksonville, they want to find a way to fight for a 2 seed to get home field, or same for Columbus. They have their chances against Albany and Carolina. If Albany and Carolina get those wins this weekend, they're separating from the pack, and it's basically the bottom 4 trying to find ways to just get into the playoff for 3 and 4 seed to be those spoilers. Now, honestly, that's my opinion. That's how it's shape up. And I look at all these both Albany's and Carolina's rosters. The stars are shining. They're not killing themselves with penalties, and they're just dominating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I want to touch back here on like Carolina's night. Similarly, again, like you said, dominant as Albany, but it almost. I mean, it was perfection. It almost felt too easy. They're early on. They clearly. Arena, it stays close to the beginning and it finally trails off at the end if you're pulling away. Well, I mean, set the tone early. What do? San Antonio gets the ball first. They punt, they blast on down the field. They're right at the goal line. Fumble recovery, instantly 7-point swing, and then the rest is just kind of just out of night win. And I almost look at, like I said, that the travel kind of had effect, but they had a day to relax. Like Robert Kent felt a little uncomfortable, it seemed like, throughout the night. He had some moments, but there were others where it's like he just felt like pocket wasn't there, or he wanted to just get that thing out of there and made a few costly mistakes. I mean, the one Joe Powell interception was really just like a partially tipped pass, and that's just a playmaker right there. Joe's one of the better defensive backs in the NAL. He just quickly scoops that bad boy and gets a pick right near the carpet. That's a drive killer that they were having. They were inside the 20, inside the 15 at that point against Carolina.
And what also deflates the opposing team is a quarterback going 20 for 25, 313, 8 touchdowns. Yeah. And you have a receiver in Lance Evans, 8 receptions for 167 yards and 4 touchdowns. Yeah, geez, come on. How can you match that? And plus you have Kendrick Ings and you have James Summers there, and you have DJ Myers that will – add a few things. I don't think, he didn't play this past weekend. But usually he's there. DJ is there. But you look at the stats. You got James Summers with 52 receptions and 2 touchdowns, and Kendrick Ings. But the man was Evans. Like, there was two drives in that game where San Antonio was stopped and 2-step drop for Bain. I'm gonna just float it downfield, wide open, Evans in the end zone. When like if people this is their first time listening to the show and you want to know who the superstars are in this league, comparison, Jonathan Bain is the vet. He's the Philip Rivers. He is the Andrew Lucks. He is the Tom Brady, Peyton Mannings of this league. You give him time, he's going to kill you. And so far, this first 5 weeks of the season, no one has got. I think he's been sacked maybe 4 times this whole season, and the dude is just doing his thing. He may not have the most passing yards in the NAL. He may not have the most touchdowns, but he has the undefeated record. And that's one thing. I know this show's not the preview, but you look at this team overall, especially for Carolina, the weapons are getting the ball. The weapons are scoring. They're not hurting themselves. And Bain is killing, basically. I'm not trying to offend anybody, but when you're nearly perfection as a quarterback, you're not losing games. Just
no, not at all. No, I mean
it's
eight touchdowns in any arena game generally will get you that. You know, that itself. Clean game.
It also I'm not bashing San Antonio, but I've watched the game, of course. Weapons of San Antonio were shut down too. Like they were shutting down Kali Rashad, they were shutting down Robinson, they were shutting down Johnson, they were shutting down Williams and Creamer. And it's like you look at their stats and on the thing and go, I'm amazed that Robert Kent threw for 200 yards. I really am. That's how dominant Carolina was in that game. Mm-hmm. And also TC Stevens again hitting deuces. Like the deuces, apparently only 2 teams in the league know how to kick deuces right now, and that's Albany and Carolina, and they're at the top of the league.
Right, as long as you get a K ball. And I mean, look, we talked about it, you know, in our preview, of course, last week with the final walkthrough. You know, Stevens, you know, you're not going to see like Rashad or Brooks taking returns back. It's going to be deuce or nothing. So that complete element of those first several contests that the Gunslingers had, where kickers were still keeping it inbounds, that element was removed entirely. So field position was, sure, you miss it, you go to the 20, but like nonetheless, like a touchdown's better than just getting a start of the 20. It removes an entire possession of having to be on offense and have a consistent drive, which clearly San Antonio still has a few things to work out. Even with the time away, they still have some things they need to work the kinks out. They have talent though. I mean, for example, people talk about like, you know, we'll hear this week, you know, as we go later on with the episode, but Mr. Khalil Rashad there is getting a lot of looks from people around the league. Dude's a talented receiver right now. Like he's getting looks from teams that know that he is their number one target.
And the thing is one thing that we've noticed, especially how Coach Rez approaches game, is like what you said, took their main weapon out of the game. Mm-hmm. And he's a kick return specialist in the NAL. We do have a kick return specialist. And he basically shut him down in the game too. That's something that San Antonio is going to have a lot in this league, is that they're going to be introduced to different types of schemes, especially when they play Jacksonville, especially when they do play Columbus again, and especially when they play Albany. They have players that are going to go, we're going to eliminate this dude from your offense. We're not going to make you have that dude as a weapon to kick returning, and they're going to have to find a way to score points. Yeah. I think Carolina knew how the game plan against San Antonio, and they took out their main weapon. And yes, Robert Kent threw for 200 yards, but when the other guy across the way from you is throwing for 300, almost near perfection with 8 touchdowns, and your main weapon is not getting a chance to do kick returns, it's behind the 8 ball there. And we do have people out there that go the evolution of the arena game. Sometimes a rushing attack is needed in some games. Like I looked at the game against Carolina. You can run the ball no matter what. Carolina was still going to blow you out. That line of scrimmage was running game or not running game. That line of scrimmage was just destroying San Antonio. And it's strange in football. You lose the line of scrimmage battle, lose the game.
I mean, no, that's the truth. Well, that's the truth. And even more with Iron Man. Look, those linemen for these teams this year, you know, they're out there a lot more. They have to be able to retain as much energy, as much of their motor as they can, you know. So like It's one thing Columbus, or Carolina's done well. I mean, like I said, Coach Reza said, like Ziegler, their center is a specialist. Like,
Yeah.
I think that alone, having a fresh lineman like that who can just bully someone and can keep himself mentally and physically ready for those possessions, that is turning out to be very valuable. I like I said, we've been talking, we're warning the specialists as we go along too. These aren't traditional guys.
No.
It's usually the quarterback and receiver on offense. And it's amazing that this system, people are buying in with what Rez is doing, and it's working very well for him. It's a weapon of the week right now for this team, no matter where they're going. It surprises me, but that just shows good coaching, good personnel decisions that they're making out there. And it's paying off. Most well-rounded team in the league. Even with Albany dominating Jacksonville, like, I need to see more tape, because that could be, there's several factors there. I know I pumped up Kenneth McGruder last week a lot, but like, I still need to see, I want to see the rematch so badly in 2 weeks. I cannot tell you how much I want to see how these two teams clash again. Week 1 jitters
Pivotal
out
game.
of the way.
Pivotal game.
It'll be massive.
Because if Carolina wins that, they win the season series and they win the covenant tiebreaker.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this right now to me is still like Carolina and Albany are the NAL championship right now. And if I had to pre-pick, if things still go the same way as they do, I think it's one of these two. I think it's going to be either Carolina or Albany this year that they're going to be hosting it. So
yeah, and that's also if Carolina wins in 2 weeks, they basically wrapped up home field. That tiebreaker does it.
That's true.
But you know what's strange, Zach, is that we talked a lot about these 2 domination games, and it's not really good talking about games that are completely uncompetitive. But
I mean, we want them all to be close. So it is kind of weird to see like a 72-35. Now, credit new team personnel that's brand new to this level. But like Jacksonville, you still go, oh man, 29. Man, that stinks. That's unfortunate to only score 29.
Yeah.
So
do you have to remind me?
I'm sorry. You brought
Stop reminding me.
You brought the thread in. I pulled it a little bit harder than I should have, I guess.
So with that, ladies and gentlemen, that's the episode today of Wednesday Rewind. We tried our best to cover 2 one-sided affairs. We'll get that sometimes, but one thing about coming up this week, ladies and gentlemen, we got 3 games. We got 3. Every team's playing this week, so no more bye weeks for 6 straight weeks. That's good. And also, I wanted to say thank you for following us on Twitter. Thank you for following us, period. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, NAL.com or NationalMarineLeague.com/videos to get our stuff. Also, subscribe, because one of our fellow podcasters say builds morale.
Oh, yeah.
Also, 100 subscriptions, free tickets. 1 year anniversary coming up. 5,000 downloads coming up. Might do another giveaway. So tune in to the Inside the Walls podcast. Follow us on Twitter. You'll find all the updates. Once we hit those barriers, we'll be giving away hats. We have a couple teams that have already reached out to us to give us some merch to give away to you guys. So I'm really looking forward to that. What else? Tomorrow, special guest, Turf Talk. Coach Jason Gibson of the Columbus Lions joins us to talk about the frustrating start of the season, even though they're 2-1, and talks about other things about what he's doing to the community, what he's learning from the Ironman, what he is hoping that the rest of the 2022 season will be for the Columbus Lions. That's tomorrow on Turf Talk. And also on Friday, ladies and gentlemen, preview, big weekend of National Arena League football. I'm Jim Renier. That is Zach Cowan. This has been the Inside the Walls podcast. So for the 50-yard fight, we have to do our tradition. Remember one thing.
Don't be like me. Don't be a jack out of the box, and be sure to pick in terms of the smart decision. Because now I owe Rob Storm and Company a T-shirt from the show.
Yeah. Why are you not wearing it, man? You got to order it.
I didn't get express shipping yet. It'll be in by next week. Next week shows, you'll see me wearing it on a show. I swear. But seriously,
get gear for you, people.
Seriously, only folks that are a jack out of the box don't pick what seems to be the obvious choice. I'm sorry, Gunslingers fans. I took one for the team this week. That's all I did.
That's him. Just saying. He's the one that made the call. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm Jim Rier. That's Zach Kallman. We'll see you tomorrow for Turf Talk.